Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for Bramble Fox. And for this layout I'm using the Outdoor Life Perspectives and also the Pine Tree Perspectives. So this is the Outdoor Life set. It's got two titles in it and the Pine Trees are a set of 6. This is the photograph I'm going to use for this layout. I've printed it at home and I've printed it A4. And the collection that I'm going to use are various pieces from 49 and Market, including this Nature Study cluster kit. So I've picked one of the 49 and Market Nature Study papers for the background. It's called Observations. Wasn't sure quite which side I wanted to use. I go with the more yellowy tones in the end. And I've decided because it's a big photograph, I want to make a couple of clusters. So I'm going to use the Outdoor Life title in the top left with a couple of the pine trees. And then I'm going to use a couple more of the pine trees in the bottom right. So these frames are from the cluster kit that I mentioned, and I'm going to use those to base my clusters on. I'm not going to use the ones that are actually in the kit. I'm going to go a bit rogue and sort them out, using bits and pieces from other collections. So everything I use, I think, is 49 and Market, but that could be from Gardenia or Avesta or Spice or some extra of the die cuts, the laser cuts that they've got. That's one of the things in their collections that I particularly like. So I have them from various collections. And when a collection is a little bit older, I tend to mix them up and store them all together so I know the manufacturer. So I apologise if I didn't list the collection some of these bits have come from. So because this photograph is taken in the woods, I wanted to stick with that sort of nature theme. So I particularly enjoying putting together the cluster at the bottom right. I think the pine trees go really well with this collection, and there's ferns and mushrooms and all sorts of bits. So I've cleared the desk a little bit and I've punched out some of the laser cuts, and I'm going to crack on and get these clusters sorted. So if you've watched me before, I don't stick things down very early. It's a habit, unfortunately. So I'm just going to get the layers sorted below the photograph and then I'll work on the clusters. This paper's from Spice. I'm just going to tear the edges and I'm going to add this top and bottom. I just want a few layers poking out either side of the photograph first. So I'm just going to cut that with scissors and I'm going to add it to some of the laser cut edges as well, just to make it look like there's lots of bits and pieces behind it. I'm not going to gut the base paper. I sometimes do, but actually I'm going to use it just to help stabilize all the layers that I've got there. So I'm going to come back in and tear this for the bottom. As I say, it is a mix of collections, but I do feel that a lot of the papers go really well together across them. So the shades of green are all quite similar, so I think they will work together perfectly. This is just a distress tool that I'm using there. It's an old one by Prima that I've just brought in just to rub the edges. Now, because I've printed this photograph myself, I'm going to distress the edges. It's not an original. And I'm just going to rough that up a little bit as well, just to match the paper layers that are underneath it. I don't do the sides. Because it's A4, there is a tiny bit of paper showing either side, but I don't think you really see that at all. And I'm just happy with the layers. I'm going to bring in a little bit of this peachy orange as well, because there is some of that in the photograph in the background of it. And it means that I can actually bring that in as well later on in one of the clusters. So I will add a little bit of that coming through there. And I'm actually liking the way that is all now coming together. So I brought the die cuts back in. I'm going to use the 2 frames, as I say, from the Nature Study. I'm going to use one horizontal at the top and vertical at the bottom, because if I use it horizontal, it covers too much of the people in the photograph, and also a lot of the bits and pieces and the trees are vertical, so I think it will work as a good base to add them to. So I'm adding some of the tags behind the frames just to give them somewhere to sit, and I'm going to have a look at the other bits and pieces. The ferns I particularly like. I think it really makes a nice layer for the trees to sit on. I'm only balancing bits and pieces at the moment, but I will eventually attach the trees on layered a little bit, so that to add a bit more depth. Building depth into clusters isn't something that worries me. I don't mind that they fill the page protectors a little bit more. I like the way that that looks, so I'm not after a flat layout. So it's perfect when I come to build the clusters. What I do find though is when I build clusters like this, it doesn't matter whether it's 2, 3 or more. There's some that are favourites and some that are less so. So this one on the bottom right seems to be coming together really well at the minute, and I'm liking the bits that's going into it. And even though I know I like the way the title sits on that frame, I'm not getting the layers below it quite right at the minute. But I know it will come in the end. But faffing is one of the things that I do seem to do a lot of when I come to make these. But I just found this little circular piece that says "Let the adventure begin," and I think that would work really well with this top cluster. And I've decided I'm going to use the fern like I did in the bottom cluster, and I'm actually going to layer that with the trees. So while my hands continue, this photograph is something that I really love. It's part of a series of photographs that was taken on my son and now daughter-in-law's engagement photo shoot. And it was all taken outdoors and strolling through the woods, and they're very natural photographs, very well taken. And I just thought it would be absolutely perfect to go with these perspectives. The trees particularly, I think they look really great layered, and the titles go really well for so many different activities and types of photographs. So I would recommend that you check these out in the store. It's brambleffox.co.uk. They also do a subscription every month, so have a look at the Foxbox and the Foxbox Plus. But there's new things every month added to the store, so do keep checking back. I'd recommend it. So I'm starting to like the way this is going now. That circle does make the cut just about there. Don't feel like it needs too much more adding to it. But if you've watched me before, I tend to have a look through all the bits and pieces, see if there's any other bits that I might like to add. But I feel that those clusters, maybe a couple of leaves here and there, but I feel that those clusters are pretty much there, but you never know whether I can get 1 or 2 more bits on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to then stick this down off camera and then see finally whether I want to add any bits. So that's everything stuck down. I'm just going to bring in that circle and add some twine in it, just so that I've got another texture underneath the title there. So just tie that in a bow and add that on some foam pads just to bring it up to the same sort of level of the frame and the perspective. So just a little bit of foam there, and tuck it in next to the pine trees. So I've just used a little bit of wet glue to stick those trees one on top of the other. It's just the Nuvo adhesive that I've used, and that's worked perfectly there. So that will hold everything there in place. So I'm just tweaking that twine and cutting it shorter, and it's a perfect addition to that cluster there. But as I'm always looking at any little bits and pieces that I can add in. The tiny leaves, I know if I put them back in the plastic 12 by 12 bag, they'll probably disappear to the bottom. So if I can sneak a couple more in, I will. So this is my final bit of faffing, just tucking these few bits and pieces in. I hope this has inspired you to check out the perspectives at brambleffox.co.uk. As I say, lots of new goodies being added every month. Just come in with the gardenia enamel dots and add a little heart there, but that's it in all its glory. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to follow with a full image and some close-ups for you to see it. And we hope to see you here real soon. This was Sheena Rowlands for Bramble Fox, and bye for now.